you, Deepak. It's a pleasure to join with you. I also welcome all you. It's different timing. People are joining. Deepak is joining from Australia, and similar way, most of our friends are there. They are from India. So I'll try to share my slides. Am I audible?
Sorry. Yes. I'll add one more thing just so the new people know. If you have any questions, please put in the chat session. So Vincent can read exactly what you want to ask. And I can also make a note who actually want to ask a question. And in the question and answer session, I will give you the permission to talk, and you can put the question straight to Vincent. So just put your questions in the chat, and we'll give you the opportunity to ask. Thanks.
Okay, thank you all. As Deepak said, we will try to finish the first session. Then we'll have a pause. Again, join with the link again to ask questions. So thank you for joining with me. So the topic of today's discussion is whether we have droughts in the sea. If scientifically, if you see droughts in the sea, there are not much literature available on droughts in the sea. So we have to look into the background why I chose this topic and what is the definitions we have on droughts and how the talk will be proceeding. So the necessity of this talk started from May 2016 when we had our annual press meet for releasing the production statistics of marine capture fisheries at Seamoparai. During the statistics presentation, it was very evident that that particular year, that means in 2015, the catch was comparatively less. And in Kerala itself, there was a reduction of 16%. So Dr. Kripa was mentioning that it was because of the increased temperature in the sea. It was quickly picked by the Fishermen Association leader, Mr. Charles George. He was citing that it is similar to drought in the land. So we have drought in the sea, so there should be a relief package for the fishermen. The meeting ended up, and Madhrubhumi, the well-known daily in Malayalam, they published this news as a front page article. That means the most important article in that particular day was this. So they gave a title "Drought for Fishes." So that day itself, there was a question in my mind whether we can say drought for what is happening in the sea, because it is mostly related to the terrestrial part of it. Then there were subsequent discussions happening in Seamoparai, and based on my previous experiences in oceanography and marine ecosystems, I could work with the Dr. Abdus Samad. You can see the next paper clipping on Indian Express. It happened in 2019 March. So that time, an application which I did for the coral reef ecosystem was applied to the marine fisheries, particularly to Indian oil sardines, and we were explaining in this particular paper. I was explaining like how the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or the altered water circulation because of El Nino, is increasing the temperature in northern Indian Ocean region. That was the content of this particular paper, which is shown in English in the right side. So with this backdrop, when we look into the definitions for droughts, when we have to think of drought in the sea, the most important quote which came into my mind is "Water everywhere, nor any drop to drink" by Taylor Coleridge. It's a literature work, but it's true that we have water everywhere, but it's not fresh water. There is salt in it. But a drought is something which is told with in the perspective of fresh water, where below average precipitation is affecting the terrestrial conditions, and there is less amount of water in streams, rivers, lakes, and groundwater sources. But it's not the same case in the sea. But when we look in detail on the different components of drought, which is explained in the terrestrial manner, we have three components. The three components include the meteorological drought, which is of course the precipitation; the agricultural drought, which affects the crop production or ecology of the range, the geographical range; and hydrological drought, which is the water reserve status. We can compute the average precipitation, what is happening in the sea and coastal areas. But with respect to agricultural drought, A similar package will be that of the flora or phytoplankton or the other floral component what is there in the sea, and whether there is any change in that particular floral component in the sea. And water reserve status is restricted to only certain portion of the sea because there are very few sources which produce fresh water in the sea. Those who live in the islands or atoll region, they derive the fresh water from the rainwater which is coming and sitting on the seawater. It is commonly known as water lens. And there is a famous paper which is telling that climate change is definitely affecting that particular source also. Definitely there is change in the water lens. So for explaining meteorological drought, I took the help of Roxy's slide. Roxy is a scientist in the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Pune. So he was telling about the changes in the rainfall events which happened from 1900 to 2020. You can see in the first figure which I put in the slide. The light blue color indicate more or less average or above average rainfall, and the dark blue indicates the extreme rains which are much higher than the normal and above rains, and the red color indicates monsoon droughts which are the deficit rainfall years. This in turn has got a lot of relevance with the mean rainfall. If you see the second figure which is below the slide, you can see like there is a gray color which is indicating the mean rainfall which is coming down. So mean rainfall is coming down, but at the same time there are extreme rain events happening. That means in a short duration there is a lot of precipitation happening at a particular point. This is because of the increased temperature, because of the climate change happening in the Indian Ocean domain, and that is a global issue. It's a global crisis. It has to be tackled globally. Because of this, we have rising extreme rains, but at the same time the mean rainfall is coming down. And we also equally contributed by reducing our forest reserve to the extent of 30 to 40%. So we have a meteorological drought-like scenario in certain years. These are also variable on interannual basis. Now, how the flora is affected. Over a period of time, chlorophyll now has, even though it's a biological term, chlorophyll is per se it's a biological term because it's a pigment seen in plants. The type of geophysical data which is available now, it has now become a geophysical term because ocean color has become the key word for chlorophyll. The chlorophyll biomass is deciphered from the ocean color. So in this figure, we can see the satellite remote sensing based ocean color data. Because of the relevance of chlorophyll to climate change, there is an ocean color climate change initiative led by Dr. Shubha Satyendranath. With her, I am constantly interacting in my different projects. Even now also, she's based at Plymouth Marine Laboratory. She was the person who was behind the Ocean Color Climate Change Initiative. So you can see like in the terrestrial area, that brown color is coming along with the temporal variation or seasonal variations. You can see the floral component is changing. It's becoming barren. Some areas are becoming brownish because the tree cover has totally vanished. Same thing if you closely observe in the ocean waters also. The ocean color, the greenish color is changing or greenish yellowish color is changing with the time. So there is definitely variability in the flora also, which can be compared with the agricultural drought. Now the hydrological drought, I told about the water reserves, and definitely the famous paper in Water in 2017 by Oberl, it's all there indicated that the water lens has got a lot of effect on the climate change and it is affecting the atoll groundwater movements. But still, these are all not definitions for a drought in the sea, and it is not still properly defined. A proper scientific analysis of the data, and definitely a lot of youngsters are sitting here and listening to the talk. If you can properly define and estimate the drought, what is happening on a spatial extent, that will be a great relief for the policy planners because it will be a decision support system which can support the policy planners to tell that these particular areas are spatially affected by drought in the sea, and definitely there can be packages which can support for the welfare of the fishermen. So define the drought properly that is happening in the sea, and if you are able to estimate its extent properly every year for every season, you will have probably a nature paper, at least in the nature climate change. So you can try for that. And next major query is like, does this increasing temperature in seawater is leading to ecosystem droughts? So first we have to see like how the ecosystem is behaving. So naturally, with respect to the sea, and one of the most easily available geophysical data is sea surface temperature data. So we are looking into the increasing temperature data which is affecting the ecosystem droughts. So my work initially in Port Blair helped me in achieving some drivers which are affecting the ecosystems, marine ecosystems specifically. So as we all know that the temperature is increasing and the data is clearly indicating that. And in particular years, we have serious temperature anomalies happening. The first diagram in the left-hand corner of the slide, you can see two comparative figures in which the red spots are more in the lower figure and it's different from the previous figure. This is an anomaly, temperature anomaly. Anomaly is nothing by the deviation from the average climatology or average temperature over a long period of time. If you have the temperature data, if you average them and take how much each pixel is deviating, that can be expressed in the form of an anomaly for that particular time. So there are a lot of temperature anomalies. This is one thing what happened along with the El Nino, serious El Nino, what happened in 2015. So ENSO is creating a clear pumping of temperature into the northern Indian Ocean, and it is affecting the precipitation. And there is a problem. There is a problem of precipitation. There is a problem of temperature happening in the oceans. And this is creating a thermal stratification, and it is envisaged in the form of cyclones, which can be normally tracked and estimated, and fishermen can be given relief packages based on the cyclones what are forming. But our interest is to see how we can really define drought and estimate drought in the sea. So from the ecosystem drivers, this particular case study was published as Current Science cover page article, the 2011 first issue of Current Science, January issue of Current Science. This was the cover page article. So in India, probably our team was the first to use the satellite remote sensing data to study such ecosystem drivers, and this was one such studies. We clearly linked temperature with the bleaching incidents, what is happening. And further, we could see like the byproduct of this increasing temperature and thermal stratification, the cyclone, the physical forcing that is creating also creates a lot of problems in the corals. You can see the live but upturned corals which happened because of the cyclone in 2011. This was also published in Environmental Monitoring and Assessment Journal. The paper is available. Even the bleaching which happened in the previous year, 2010, which resulted in algal smoothed bleached corals, all became rubbles. You can see the photos here. So the cyclones are creating a strong mesoscale eddy, which is creating a physical forcing and damaging the corals. We try to model, and this model outcome is still not published because the work was started in NAU by my friend and colleague that time, Mr. Saeed. Now he is with the NCMWRF. He could model the hydrodynamics and see like the currents. There was real sea level variation happening when we model it, and it was very evident in the coherence model which he did. But still, it's not published. The physical forcing, what is happening during cyclones on such a very sensitive ecosystems is still not properly studied. Mangroves, there was a study from the lab where I did my PhD, but in corals, this is an area which you can take it up still. So the ENSO-driven temperature changes is very prominent. This is published from our previous work in Port Blair with the help of LIX in Environmental Monitoring and Assessment, where we clearly explain that altered water circulation is bringing in a lot of temperature into the northern Indian Ocean during El Nino, and ENSO is having a major role. And you can see the red spots, which are El Nino years where there are temperature spikes, and these spikes are affecting Micronesia environment like coral reefs and any other coastal sensitive ecological environment is affected by this change. And you can see that temperature is having a definite role in the ecosystem drivers, but we didn't explore the role of rain or precipitation to clearly indicate that it is a drought. So there is a possibility of looking into that further. Now, whether it is the temperature or rain that affects the fishes, that was the major question which we have to answer. Though the ecosystem is driven by the temperature changes, our query is to see like whether it is the rain that is affecting the fishes. So the rainfall data, we could see the rainfall data from 2000 to 2014, and we could see like there are a lot of inter-annual variations in all the quarters. Different rainfall available in different quarters were compared, and you can see like the rainfall is changing. And we could see like the chlorophyll interannual variability and the seasonal variability is also pretty particularly evident. There are a lot of changes in the chlorophyll what is available, and we have seen the global situation. This is the situation for Kerala. In Kerala also, the similar change what we have seen in the global map is seen in Kerala also. So in this domain also, we could see like there are a lot of interannual variability in the chlorophyll. So whether this chlorophyll is driven by the different environmental variables like whether it is SST, because we always think of SST as a major factor, or the Kerala rains, or wind stress, or Ekman transport, or SLA. Definitely wind stress, Ekman transport, and SLA had got very good relation because they are the physical forcing. The wind during summer monsoon, the southwest monsoon winds are the major forcing, which is creating upwelling, and upwelling is driving the productivity. And we could see like this is a major factor. And our main concern is like if we remove this, whether SST or Kerala rains, which is very relevant. And we could come up with a multilinear regression analysis and a model for obtaining the chlorophyll using the model. And this was the equation derived. You can see the equation towards below in the slide. And based on this equation, we could generate the chlorophyll, and it was exactly matching the satellite remote sensing data, which is, I told earlier in the platform, Ocean Color Climate Change Initiative platform, this chlorophyll is available, and it was exactly matching. So our interest was still to see like among these factors, among these variables, which are the major variables contributing and what can be their ranking. And we could rank them clearly 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can see like rains have a rank 4 and temperature is having a rank 5. So definitely rain is having a big role. But statistically, we could not get a very significant relation here. But still, we could see like rainfall is found to occupy a major rank than SST. And definitely the wind is the major physical forcing what is driving the chlorophyll in the ecosystem. And this chlorophyll and the fish, and the candidate fish always we take as sardines, it is having a cross correlation with a lag of 3 months. That means if chlorophyll is leading, after 3 months, the effect of the chlorophyll is pronounced in the fish catch or sardine catch. This anomaly was clearly depicting the interannual fluctuations in sardines, as reported by Longhurst in his famous paper in the Journal of Canadian Journal of Fisheries and Aquatic Sciences in 1990. He was selling the decadal fluctuations. We could reconstruct such fluctuations with the modeled and satellite remote sense derived chlorophyll data, and comparing it with the sardine quarterly interannual variability. Further, we looked into the standardized anomalies with the lag and could try to see like how these variables have a relation with the Indian oil sardine. What is the seasonal lag? Probably it was not statistically so significant. So our idea was to see whether it is environmental variables or whether it is the chlorophyll which is driven by the environmental variables. So we could get a clear relation with the chlorophyll, but we could not get a clear relation with the environmental variables. So it is definitely the chlorophyll what is driving the force. That means the agricultural drought can be compared with the chlorophyll. So there is some relation of the chlorophyll with the environmental variables also. So some way we can have some relation how the chlorophyll or the phytoplankton availability, which is comparable with the agricultural drought, which is defined in the definition of drought, we can somehow bring in some concrete evidences to support this. This is how we have come to a conclusion. So in summary, what I would like to say, like there are a lot of environmental stresses happening here. I have taken the slides from Dr. Shyam Salim and Dr. P.U. Sakriya, some information from NICRA also, and summarized like the impact in the physical environment due to the things are having a definite influence on the ecosystem as an issue. And if ecosystem is having a problem, then definitely it will result in the less abundance of the fishes. If the fish is affected, then the fisherman is affected and their livelihood is affected. So all these three components, the environment, the resource, and resource users. So this is a very close knit component, and if we can really define the drought and identify the extent of the drought or estimate the drought, what is happening in the spatial extent of the sea, we can help the fishermen. So climate hotspots, the fishery or ecological hotspots or social hotspots have to be determined with some decision support tools. Here again, it's the slide of Dr. Shyam Salim. So we have to have some mechanism or decision support to say that there is drought in the sea, and if there is drought in the sea, it will be backed with proper scientific evidence, and the policy planners can take a right decision for coming up with some welfare packages. And at the level of SARC Agriculture Center also, we have initiated some actions, and there was a regional consultation meeting where 8 member states have represented. And fortunately, I was part of the Indian delegation which represented India in this particular consultation meeting online that time. It was a webinar that time, and we discussed and we contributed a chapter also here. So in nutshell, what I want to say, like we have delayed response of Northern Indian Ocean to El Nino events. The ENSO is definitely troubled by serious El Nino, and it is having a warming effect in the Indian Ocean region with a lag. For example, if the El Nino, all of you know that it is happening in December, and if it is happening in December, the effect of temperature or the delayed response in the temperature in the Northern Indian Ocean is happening after a lagged period of probably 4 months or 6 months, depending upon the type of the intensity of the El Nino. And this abnormal warming is driving the dynamics of ecosystems and can be treated at par with the drought. Definitely, we have to define it properly. And fish abundance, rather than the temperature, it has to do more with the precipitation. And definitely, chlorophyll, the food, is driving the fish abundance in the ecosystem. Further, for refining of this, studies are much required, and we have to define and estimate droughts in the sea in the spatial extents, how variable it is in different spatial locations, and what is the intensity in which the drought is happening, and how best we can come up with the solutions saying that how much the fishermen is affected because of these changes. Climate change is certain, and the changes are very evident, and even in this pandemic, people are saying that the climate change has got a big role. The locusts coming in, the pandemic spreading across the globe, the changes all are triggering more and more issues all across the globe, and we have to think seriously how best we can answer some of the queries related to the climate change in the oceans and support the fishermen who are really affected by it. That's in a nutshell what I want to speak. I hope I was clear. In case if there is some more clarity required in some of the slides, I am ready to do it. And this has been possible with the help of a lot of support from the people. Thanks AFS for giving me the platform, SARC for giving me the opportunity, and all my funding partners I have mentioned here. Thank you all. Thank you for the patient listening.